Coming up on the Angus Report, mandatory price reporting on sales calves. Should prices really be based on the numbers?
And the concern that we all start to have is if all the good cattle are getting marketed in a value-based system, so the cattle that show up on mandatory price reporting, are they average? Are they below average? Maybe above average.
The U.S. cow herd is growing, but what does that mean for producers' bottom lines?
You can see featuring activity have an increased volume movement of 25 to 50% depending on how hot that feature is.
We look at how U.S. quality beef is driving demand on an international scale. And we sit down with Miss American Angus and look back at her time under the crown. This is the Angus Report. Hello and welcome to the Angus Report. I'm Bob Cervera. Our top news this week. Many progressive cattlemen choose to forward contract their sale calves each year rather than market them through the traditional sale barn. Many ranchers have worked to produce higher quality calves to open their operation up to a larger network of buyers and in turn increase their profits. However, due to this form of marketing, there's been a decrease in cattle numbers marketed on the live cash price, which is seen as the base for most transactions. Ed Greiman has been working with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and says it could be time to adopt a new method of pricing cattle, and mandatory price reporting could be not as accurate as it should be.
Well, the challenge with mandatory price reporting is what does it really represent? So somebody trades some cattle and they're kind of heavy or they're dirty or they're a bunch of heiferettes, or they trade some cattle that are really good. We don't know what that price represents because we don't know what those cattle were. We can't see them. We weren't there when they traded them. We don't know what kind of distance they're going to be traveling. Was freight paid? Was it not paid? Things like that. And so mandatory price reporting was meant to be a little bit of an indicator of what was going on, but now we're pricing cattle off of it, and we're pricing a lot of cattle off of it. And so we've got to start to make sure that we understand what that price means. Well, you know, our whole world has evolved, and we've been really focused on the consumer. We've been focused on building demand with the consumer, and the consumer asking for something, and then we deliver it. And really that's a lot of the work that CAB has done. And so we're trying to produce a higher percentage of what they want. Well, in doing so, we change the way we feed, we change the genetics that we're buying, our whole processes, everything we do. Therefore, we're partnered with a packer. And because of that, we're seeing more value-based marketing. And with value-based marketing comes more formula cattle, more contracting. It's not a bad thing. We're all getting paid premiums for what we do. But the real question is if we get to higher and higher percentages of those cattle, and we get down to 15% of the cattle are on the cash market, what do we base the cattle off of? What's the base price for the futures market? What's the base price for our value-based markets? And the concern that we all start to have is if all the good cattle are getting marketed in a value-based system, so the cattle that show up on mandatory price reporting, are they average? Are they below average? Maybe above average. I mean, up till now, they've been pretty average when we see the grade, but we start to wonder how that'll keep the change.
Greiman was a featured speaker at this year's Certified Angus Beef Feeding Quality Forum. Visit cabpartners.com for additional information on reaching those top cattle markets. And as the U.S. cattle herd continues to expand, it's going to become even more important for producers to raise high-performing cattle. Sterling Marketing is projecting U.S. beef production will increase another 3% in 2018. In turn, this is driving weaned calf prices down. Since 2015, weaned calf prices have fallen 30% and are projected to fall an additional 3% in the coming year. Additionally, cow-calf profits are down almost $130 per cow, which is a 70% decrease from 2 years ago. Future projections see that number falling almost $75 in 2018. However, despite rising herd size and decreased prices, CattleFax CEO Randy Block says that rise could provide the beef industry with momentum in the retail markets and then potentially increase the amount of total products sold.
The cattle markets got pretty hot in 2014, 15, and we all understood that wasn't sustainable with the price increases that we went through. Supplies have increased, prices have corrected back in here at levels that I think are much more comfortable. I don't think our markets have a lot more down, but they got to ease lower here over the course of the next couple of years. One of the things I think we're going to see is retailers and food service operations are going to have good margins. So I think we'll see great featuring activity. They're going to have the margin incentive to feature beef on a regular basis as we finish 2017, go into 2018. So I think that's a real positive thing for our industry. You can see featuring activity have an increased volume movement of 25 to 50% depending on how hot that feature is. When I say hot, how good an incentive it is. You know, we've had great featuring activity. It started in the fall of 2016 and it continued all the way through the spring of 17, and now it's starting to build up again. Consumers love it when we start seeing some of these middle meat prices that are featured at lower levels. Ground beef prices, we've seen a real increase in ground beef featuring. And remember, about half the beef consumption in the U.S. is in the form of ground beef. So those are important things for us. That's what moves the volume and separates the beef industry from some of the other commodities out there.
Block encouraged suppliers and restaurant owners at this year's Certified Angus Beef Annual Conference they could see an upward swing in demand for high-quality beef in the upcoming months. Visit CertifiedAngusBeef.com for additional information. It was another record-breaking year for the leader in high-quality beef. The Certified Angus Beef brand, which recently hosted its annual conference in Nashville, announced once again more than 1 billion pounds of CAB was sold in the past year. Propelled by continuously growing consumer demand and the international efforts by producers and industry leaders, the CAB team sold a record 1.12 billion pounds of certified Angus beef. This is the second year sales have reached 1 billion pounds, and this year marked a 10.4% increase, or 106 million more pounds from the previous year. Sales growth came from almost all divisions of CAB sales, including international, retail, food service, and value-added products. Visit CertifiedAngusBeef.com for additional information on this year's record sales, as well as coverage from the CAB Annual Conference. Former Beef Products Incorporated employees, or BPI, finally received aid 5 years after ABC News coined the term pink slime, which effectively closed 3 plants and caused hundreds of layoffs. The Roth family, owners of BPI, started a $10 million fund to support 750 former employees after the settlement in June. In 2012, ABC put the South Dakota meat processor on the map after its report on lean, finely textured beef. The term stuck, drawing major media attention, and BPI revenue dropped 80%, resulting in hundreds of layoffs. Since then, BPI sued ABC and reporter Jim Avila for $1.9 billion in damages, which grew to $5.7 billion under South Dakota law. The delay in establishing the fund came from waiting until the court case was settled for fear the fund could impact the case. As a seed stock producer, it's important to know how bulls should be managed in order to prepare them reproductively. Like a female, adequate nutrition must be provided in order for them to reproduce year after year. However, again like a cow, it's possible for them to become overconditioned, which hurts fertility almost as much as being undernourished. Reproduction professor at the University of Calgary, John Kostelek, says nutrition management on young bulls is crucial to their success on the ranch. So is managing their reproductive status year after year.
If we feed bulls very well prior to approximately 25 or 30 weeks of age, and then we feed them at a moderate level, this really optimizes the growth of the bull and also his reproductive potential. On the other hand, if we underfeed bulls prior to 25 or 30 weeks, we cause a permanent decrease in the size of the testes and to some extent delay puberty. If we overfeed bulls after about 25 or 30 weeks, we get excessively fat bulls with reductions in semen quality and fertility, as well as various other health issues in the bull. We really encourage people to do bull breeding soundness exams, and really the intent there is to identify the bulls which will have low fertility. It's difficult or impossible to identify one bull as being a better bull or having higher fertility, but really our goal there is to eliminate the bulls at the lower end that would not be expected to have reasonable fertility.
During the winter months, feed quality needs to be monitored closely in order to maintain proper nutrition for cattle. Research from the University of Tennessee shows how hay is stored during winter months greatly affects the quality and amount of loss in feed. Hay that's left outside, uncovered, and sitting on the ground can lose up to 37% due to moisture and mold damage. Compare that to hay stored on the ground but covered. Losses can total up to 29%, and hay that's stored covered and off the ground might lose up to only 8%. Hay that's stored in a barn yields the best results and can lose 6% or less. Experts at Fibro Animal Health remind producers that mycotoxins can be found in animal feed year-round. Most common mycotoxin problems arise due to wet or moist conditions, but other types grow best in dry conditions. Livestock health is at the top of most producers' minds, and by testing feed frequently, you can catch problems before they affect animal health. Producers can also take advantage of a variety of silage treatments to help prevent a wide variety of mycotoxins. Contact your local veterinarian or extension agent for more information. When we return, how high-quality beef is driving the international markets. Then we sit down with Miss American Angus and look back at her reign in the Angus breed. Visit angus.media to continue watching this episode of the Angus Report.
Forward. It's more than a direction. It's mandatory. Because the beef business rewards the progressive, the doers, the ones who know what it takes to go easy on cattle and never set them back. So set your eyes on the horizon, turn your back to the wind, and move your herd the only way you know. Forward. Vista Vaccines. Always ahead.
Today's beef consumer has questions. BQA has the answers. Your Beef Quality Assurance certification allows you to share a story that assures customers that you are responsibly raising a safe, wholesome, and healthy beef supply. Becoming BQA certified just became even more convenient with a new interactive training experience that is online and available 24/7. So what are you waiting for? Get started today by visiting bqa.org.
Hi, I'm Red Stegall. I'd like to invite you to the 2017 Angus Convention, November 4th through the 6th, right here in historic Fort Worth. It's also open to all cattle producers, whether you own Angus cattle or not. Now you'll enjoy 4 days of Texas hospitality, a ranch tour, an industry-leading trade show, and some of the best educational opportunities in the business. But best of all, you'll get to be with your Angus family, celebrating the successes of the breed and charting a course for the future.